Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the IWillAim podcast. And our topic for today is Future Ready Performance Playbook, Winning the AI Era, with my special guest, Eric Ebron. Hey, Eric, good morning.
Good morning, Will. Eric Ebron is right. Good job.
Live from Clarksville, Tennessee. Eric had a book fair on Saturday, so I came here to support Eric and looking forward to our conversation. This is right up your alley.
It's right up my alley. I think, again, us getting future ready, looking at being our best selves in this AI era is perfect, and we need to.
Absolutely, I agree. But if you're watching this episode, like, subscribe, and more importantly, comment. Tell us what you think, and if you need any help, reach out to Eric first and me second. Let's dive into the topic. We talk about future-ready performance, and that starts with a mindset. In your opinion, or in your professional opinion, what does mindset mean?
You know, when I look at in consulting some of the customers that come to me, I try to have them understand, or as a consultant, you want to listen and you want to see where they're going and what their thoughts are. But I've found that some of them don't have kind of a central theme through their collective flows mindset, right? They may say, I want to scale, but they don't know what scaling is, right? They say, I want to not just grow the business, but I want to reduce cost. And that sounds great, but they have no handle actually on what their business performance looks like. Truly, they're happy for 3% or 5% growth. But I think having a mindset is starting to slow down and say to yourself, what is the central theme of either moving forward, or the central theme of why I'm stopping, or the central theme of where I come from, and this is the position that I'm starting from. So a mindset, we talk about a mindset shift a lot, which sounds great, but you have to understand where you are. You have to have that base. And again, not just talking to consultants, but having those conversations with those that you rely on, whether it's mentees or mentors or coaches, helps you frame your mindset, help you frame where you need to be. So that's what mindset kind of means to me. It's that starting point to help you understand where you're going to shift to or shift from.
I love the concept of the starting point, and to a certain degree, that drives into what I call purpose. And it's really important for people to understand the purpose, because some business get caught up with the shiny object. Oh, I need to cut costs. The reality is you cannot cut yourself to glory. Cutting costs in itself without any improvement will never get you to where you need to be.
I had a leader one time, and every quarter, every year, we had our mission that we're to cut costs, which every business should do that. But there was a time we said to ourselves, look, how much time can you cut costs and get to where either you're not paying for anything, like everything is free, so there's a bottom limit to cutting costs where you're actually meeting the needs of the business. You need this minimum area. And I think some businesses don't understand that. So they want to cut costs to the point that's saying, hey, we now are we need to be lean, which is great, but they're so lean that they can't move forward. They're so lean that when morale is low, they don't know how to, bring their people to the areas they need to be. Or as again, we're talking about businesses not understanding, talk about mindset, not understanding where they want to go. And they're just so solely focused on one of the items of business, cutting costs or growing sales or scaling up. But it is an amalgamation of all these to be successful in your business.
There's a saying that if you don't really know what you're doing, you're never going to be successful.
You never. Likewise, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going, right?
Absolutely.
And that's important. So again, as consultants and as those that listen, we help them understand where they are. They can tell us where they came from, but we want to know where you are, and then we can get you forward.
So let's now talk about leaders out there that are listening. They want to stay on top of their game. And in the AI era, how do they stay on top of their game? How do they lead their teams?
There's a thing where training the trainers in business. It's not just you becoming the expert, but you having the ability and knowledge to understand that you're now going to train someone else to do that same item. I think leaders must stay on the game, right? We call it future ready. When we say future, of course, tomorrow's future, next month is future, next quarter is future. But it starts today. Leaders need to kind of get a grasp and hold of what AI can do for them, what the future holds for them, having hope, having a pinpoint, and then saying to ourselves, we call them milestones, right? I'm going to meet this milestone, meet that milestone, but setting those calendar events to understand I've now met and then celebrate. So, leaders today need to not get caught up in this shiny object like we talk about, right? Mm-hmm. It can be so shiny that they're like a cat. They're going from shiny object to shiny object and never left their space. They never move forward. They can talk a good game, but they're never going to see the results. So we're looking for, as a team, as a collective, to help bring leaders and say, hey, listen, here's where you need to be. Here's what your people are looking for. Additionally, there are a young generation that are caught up, like 50% of the lingo in the future. They live in this every day. But as leaders, we need to now scale that down to what it takes to take that information and help them grow and be what's next. And it starts with us as leaders.
I think I really love the fact you said starts with the leader. And what I love to add to that one is we need to have that love for learning, because part of our growth and development and our ability to help our people is when we're actually learning. The more we learn, the more we could encourage people to come and partake, right?
Well, I was consulting this engineer, and I asked him, have you considered macros? And he's like, oh, you utilize macros? And I said to him in the nicest of way, I said, I learned macros 30 years ago. And he kind of looked at me and it's like, and I said, he goes, well, how are you? I said, you have to keep growing. Even though I'm talking about macros that I learned 30 years ago and he could utilize it, there are tools today that are better than macros. There are connected workflows. There are automation that does macros in the background, right? So I kind of took 30 years ago, brought it forward, showed him how that's evident, and then said, here's what the future holds, right? So learning, I wasn't set to know that and to learn that. I would be learning or reflecting on something that I learned in the past, saying that I'm helping them grow, and in reality, I'm applying 30-year-old technology to it. Sure, it would work, but it would not help them scale. It would not bring them future ready.
I think that's a key. Thinking about being future ready and cutting through the noise. And as Eric mentioned this before, just start somewhere and continue to move the needle in the right direction. And if you don't know how to, you start somewhere, you got stuck, this is the person you need to reach out to. And I'll be posting the link to his website and his LinkedIn profile so you could reach out to him. When we talk about AI, a lot of people are really, I would say, apprehensive, worried about it. But when we talk about this many times during our catch-up is AI is not a technology issue, it's more of leadership. So how do we explain to our audience that it's a leadership and not a technology issue?
As a young and upcoming leader, the leader I had was doing his best. Let's put it that way. And, he had been a leader for 15 years prior. The customers were fine with the service. The business was fine with the service. And it seems like the status quo was met. But as I was growing, I started going to my leader and saying, hey, listen, we could probably do this better. I said, we could probably string this workflow. And we could probably, and it took him some time to realize that what he accomplished in a 50-hour work week can be accomplished in about 30.
Wow.
Now, in doing so, he had to first say to himself, okay, I want to learn. I want to get better. I'm not afraid of where we're going. And I think that's where we have to have that conversation, okay, that to cut through the noise, to prepare for future ready, to bring our partner and say to themselves, this isn't something to be afraid of. This is something to embrace as a tool, and leaders are the ones that start with that. So even though I brought this to that leader, it also helped him show I was a young and upcoming leader myself. So leaders, I think, need to be on the forefront with this. There are workers that are so disillusioned right now. The news, it's baiting us and saying that jobs are going to be replaced so often. And we hear about 8,000 jobs cut here, 16,000 jobs cut there. And it's the leaders that can bring comfort and say to themselves, listen, here's where we're shifting, here's where we're directing, here's where we need to be. And I think as that workflow comes down, it's the base mid-level leaders that's going to lead us where we need to be. It's going to give the people comfort that AI isn't doing the replacing, It's doing the addition and to help them understand how they could be a part of it. Just like I was able to come to that leader and say, let's talk about this, and truly reduce his workflow 30%, which, by the way, in the future set me up to be the next leader. Leaders today can have those conversations with the people and say, listen, this is how we get better. And this is how you get better. And this is how you can bring those tools to our business, where we can see those 6, 10, 14% gains by division or by company. I think that's what leaders should be responsible for nowadays.
I love the fact that you mentioned that from 50 hours to 32 hours, that's a powerful conversation you could have with your line manager if you're able to do that. That's what we call moving the needle, leveraging or partnering with AI. At the end of the day, I always tell people it's human plus AI. It's not AI and human in the loop. It's human plus AI. We utilize AI as a tool and a partner, and then we make the decision of how to use it. But we should use, as Eric, we were talking about this, if you want to use AI, the content must be yours. And you use AI to brainstorm, to challenge, to critique, to give you feedback. And that's how you grow, right?
Exactly.
Partnering, but at the end of the day, I want to emphasize it's human plus AI.
There are uniquely human personality traits that AI cannot mimic in any way, shape, or form that is marketable. But we would bring that creativity. And again, as leaders, that's what our leaders should look for. If we stop and wait for the C-suite to draw down what AI is going to be used for, we're going to have a lot of discombobulation within, where we're going to have a lot of turmoil, we're going to have morale drop, we're going to have this disconnection in our business excellence. But when we help leaders at the baseline level and say, listen, here's what it takes to grow, here's what AI does, here's what ingenuity looks like, here's how I can take your measure of creativity and expand it 3-fold, 6-fold, 10-fold, then we are flowing up to leadership that reduction of our cost, that increase of our profitability, and it flowed up. And then at that time, it was the young leaders, the new leaders, the mid leaders that are showing the teams we don't need to be afraid. We've embraced what AI can do.
Love that message. I think as we wrap up this episode, what's the one advice you had for our listener today? Other than liking and subscribing and commenting?
That's, first off, like, subscribe, and comment. In today's future ready mindset, and again, we talked about mindset, we talked about future ready. We have to start right now and say, hey, what does tomorrow look like for me? What does next week look like for me? Here's what status quo is. Here's my review. And let's say this. If you are a 92% performer and this is what your review look like, utilize AI. Hey, AI, I'm going to load up to you my last 3 reviews. I was a 90%, 92% leader. I want to breach the 96% mark in 6 months. Read my review. Give me 3 things that my leader likes about me on this collective, 2 things that they said I need to work on, and let's put together a 6-week plan for me to improve what I need to improve on by 15%. As well as, in that plan, give me 3 points that I need to do to maintain my high efficiency in these levels. That is what you can do today. Spend the time, work on yourself. I enjoy coffee as everyone else, and I know it's a day maybe to relax. You're watching this after work, or you're watching this on the weekend. Get up, spend that time, load those reviews, ask AI as a tool to help me be better, and that's what you can do today. You will see massive results in 30 days.
I love the fact that you use AI to partner, right? That's partnering. So that's the call to action. Partner, use it to enhance, give you the perspective that otherwise you don't see.
Right now.
So when people want to reach out to you, Eric, what's the best way to reach out to Eric?
That's great. You can find me EricEbronConsulting.com. Instagram is ConsultSME. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can do a Google search on Eric Ebron Business, and I'll be right there.
Well, thank you, Eric, for your time and a great conversation again. Have a good day.
You will.